Hey guys, kinggath here with some news for Sim Settlements. Today I want to go back and catch up on all of the add-ons and mods for Sim Settlements that I've missed since I last did one of these videos. I kind of fell off the wagon there with all of the time I was putting into the expansion pack, but now that that's released and I'm a little more calmed down, I want to get back through and make sure you guys are aware of all of the cool mods that have come out for Sim Settlements. Now, the first one I'm going to cover actually came out before I did my last video, but it somehow slipped under my radar, and that is Brae's Defenses. Now, this one originally it added to the industrial plot, but now adds to the martial plot, and it adds a ton of new defensive structures. Now, for those of you guys, especially on Xbox, who didn't have room for the Industrial Revolution expansion, you'll still be able to use the new plots, assuming an add-on adds them. So, the new plot types, the Advanced Industrial, the Martial, and the Recreational, all exist in the core of Sim Settlements. They just only show up to build if you have a mod that supports them, and the default Sim Settlements doesn't have any plans, but Industrial Revolution does, and add-on packs can also enable them by adding buildings to those. So if you just have, for example, if you just had Sim Settlements and Brae's Defenses, you would still have access to some martial plots. Alright, in patch 1.1.9, I added performance options, which were designed to help out players on lower-end systems and Xbox, and now user Elzee has added a new mod called Shadows for Sim Settlements for those of you guys on really souped-up PCs. What this does is adds shadowing to all the lighting in Sim Settlements, and it really looks fantastic, but it is a system killer. So if you don't have a really intense system with a good GPU, I wouldn't recommend using this. But if you do have a crazy good gaming system, this will greatly improve the look of the Sim Settlements buildings, because the lights will no longer come through the walls and they will properly create shadows. Next, we've got a mod for you guys on Xbox. I know a lot of you have asked for a way to get access to the Holotape without having to go to one of the locations. On PC, you could just add it via console, and since you don't have that, user Vicyorus has created the Sim Settlements Cheat Holotape, which will spawn in your inventory immediately and allow you to generate the City Manager Holotape, as well as ASAM sensors, and I imagine in the future it will cover other items to help you kind of speed your way through Sim Settlements. Alright, next we've got one that's not a typical add-on pack. This, instead of adding new building plans, adds new foundation pieces so that you can kind of terraform your settlement and lay out a nice flat surface for building Sim Settlements plots on. It comes in a variety of textures, and the shapes remind me of the old school Sim City, where you could actually bend the terrain around to meet your needs. And so this kind of adds that feature to Fallout. Alright, next we have what I think might be the largest residential add-on for Sim Settlements, and that is Jibs Residential Add-on, which currently adds a dozen new buildings to Sim Settlements. I think that's the only exception that might be bigger is the Slumlord add-on, which essentially adds infinite combinations, but this adds actually 12 new planned out residential buildings. Next we have an interesting add-on. It's called the Huntergatherer add-on by user Kana292, and this adds a single building plan that only has one level, and it's designed for people who want to play exclusively with Sim Settlements objects and not build any of the vanilla. So this first building, what it does is creates a home that also adds enough defense and food and water so that your settler can kind of be self-sufficient. So that way, until you have enough settlers to start building up a good amount of agricultural and martial and stuff, you can use this one building to kind of get you through those early stages. Alright, next up we've got our first Raider add-on, and that is Raider Refugees by MaturinMods. And what this does is it follows a similar pattern to the Slumlord in that it's just a single building plan, but it creates a nearly endless combinations out of it. So this follows kind of a raidery, I'd almost say Mad Max theme, and adds a lot of new custom assets and lighting, and it's got a really cool system going on for randomization, so I highly recommend checking this out if you're looking to build a raider-themed settlement with Sim Settlements. And now, this last set of mods isn't a direct add-on or doesn't require Sim Settlements, but it happens to work really well with it, and that is the All Settlements Extended Series by user Neeher. Now, these come in two flavors, actually more than that. The first one is all the vanilla settlements add-on, and then the next is a mod that just covers the Far Harbor so that you don't have to have the DLC required for this core part of the mod. And the core part of the mod is also broken into a few random other individual pieces. So if you wanted to just have a certain few settlements extended, there are individual mods for the different settlements available. Now, the reason I'm covering this is twofold. One is that this is the first settlement extension mod I've seen that actually supports the plots correctly. A lot of those settlement extended mods out there, your settlers would start to walk toward a plot, they would get to what the old vanilla boundary was and just kind of stop dead and not go interact with the plots, whereas this mod solves that. Now, the method that this mod uses to solve that also happens to solve an issue with the vanilla game that a lot of you noticed with Sim Settlements, and that is what I call the dead zones. Those would be the areas in your settlements where you'd walk over to them and the HUD from Sim Settlements would disappear. If you had built something like a commercial plot there, it wouldn't function correctly, and that is because the cells, which are kind of the grid that the game is divided up into, weren't correctly linked to the settlements in the code, so that when your game would check if an area was in the settlement border, it would report falsely that it wasn't. This mod incidentally fixes that and kind of cleans up those dead zones. Now, some of you may be asking, well, kinggath, why don't you just add that to Sim Settlements? And the reason I don't is I don't want to edit any vanilla records or any vanilla scripts with Sim Settlements because that'll risk causing conflicts with other mods. This way, for those of you guys who really want those borders extended and also want to fix, you have that option, and if it turns out it conflicts with one of your other mods, you can just disable this mod as opposed to having to remove Sim Settlements in order to get compatibility. So that is why I'm not editing this directly. So I'd highly recommend this for Sim Settlements players, especially if you guys are looking to use some of the smaller settlements like Hangman's Alley or Jamaica Plain, because this will greatly increase their borders and allow you guys to go nuts with the plots. Though, for those of you on Xbox, you should still keep in mind that your system can only handle so much. If you build too many plots, I think most players have reported if they go beyond about 35 plots, their Xbox just can't handle it anymore. So keep that in mind if you're using these mods. Okay, guys, like I said, I'm going to try and keep up with these videos more frequently, try and get them to you every week or two to show you all the new stuff coming out for Sim Settlements by different mod authors. Okay, guys, take care and enjoy the mod.